I didn't think Taylor and Watts had an exceptional first spell, but it's a solid first spell. That's all we have time for.
Alright, see that right, Yoko Ono's here, best let her in.
So, before we were interrupted by beautiful gender neutral cakes, we...
well, the thing is, you have to explain that now, because unless you put the whole last 10 minutes in as an outtake, people aren't going to know that we've just had gay cake brought to us. Well, not gay cake, but cake that's pro-LGBT.
Yeah. You made a cracking joke about the one where the tea had fallen off, and you said that's the American Army cake.
Well, we'll have to stick it in at the end.
Good
but
times.
Yes, Emma has arrived and has brought cake with us from her sister's NCS group's charity bake sale.
Oh, my little sister was doing this NCS business last week as well.
Oh, what's your sister called?
Sky Stewart, but she was doing it from St Anne's, so I don't know. It's probably a different group.
Where was she last week?
In Blackpool on the front with buckets, but it got called off most days because it was pissing it down.
Yeah, that's Tasman's group. She was there. She was the wave before me.
Oh, there you go.
Just finished yesterday.
Yeah, well, Sky's was like last week, I think. Yeah.
There you go. So Emma, who you've now heard on the podcast as well, was is involved with that, and it was her sister's group that were making the cakes. So we very happily enjoyed LGBT buns, haven't we?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, good stuff.
So check out the end of the podcast for yet more hilarity. But you were talking about Sikimano and his performance first 25 minutes of the game.
Yeah, so then it was Bowden who picked up that mantle, I thought, next, and he was absolutely superb. Like the best I've ever seen him play in terms of the go forward he was getting. You see him work really hard and kind of be the glue sometimes that knits together a more explosive pack around him, but he was as explosive as anyone in the back end of the first half. And
I feel like that's been coming for him though.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that tired out the Leeds pack, and the half-time break wasn't enough because 5 minutes or so into the second half and you throw Taylor and Watts back in, and they were running the speed they can hit the line at and their athleticism they've got, that they were hitting the ball at such speed in space that they were just a proper massive threat because they can both pass the ball as well as offloading contact as well as bust through contact. So that just set a scene really for Hull to be dominant. And then when you were mixing it in with things like the kick for the pinpoint kick for the tap down for Tumabavi's second try, and you had Watts and Taylor both barged over, and it was just they were just awesome in that second half. And I think they did good stuff with the forward pack in the first half. I was just amazed because even when you look at the stats in Hull, you normally look at the stats and you see the big wingers get massively involved. Not so much, very low on carries and metres relative to what you normally see from Talanoa and Fanua. It was all the pack and they were all immense.
Well, they'd done such good work that what it meant was that there were a couple of occasions where Hull were able to put on, not set plays, but short ball plays out of dummy half that just caught Leeds absolutely knackered. Danny Houghton's version of a no-look pass for not Chris Green, that was...
It was Taylor's, I think.
For Taylor, for Taylor to go over was fantastic because the Leeds all bought the look, all bought the dummy, all thought that it was going to, I suspect it was Washbrook who was behind him, but they got onto the end of that and they were just a defeated pack and he got over the line really well. And then on the other side of it, Albert Kelly's pass out to Chris Green for his try was remarkable as well. And again, just
it was forward, but it was a good offload all the same. You got to credit the skill.
It was very well done, and credit Chris Green for getting his hands to it and putting it down, because it was knock-onable by every...
The adjustment from Kelly as well to the ball in the air, because I think it was tipped in the air, that kick, or it looked a bit floaty anyway. Didn't go where it was meant to go, I don't think.
But that was a beaten pack that you can then do these little short ball plays to, and
Leeds managed to score possibly the best try of the whole game, the Watkins try, that kick from Maguire, and the pick up, and then the dummy, and then the skill, and then the power that Watkins showed. I think the scoreline was a little bit harsh on Hull FC, if I'm honest. I think it could have been bigger. I don't think Ashton Golding got the ball on the line.
No, I don't think he did either. But we'll talk about balls on lines in the next game review as well, I suspect.
Possibly so.
What did the stats tell us on this one then?
Hull made over 300 more metres than Leeds at 1.4 metres per carry, better average gain, setting the platform for 9 breaks to 3 and 7 tries to 4 in the victory. Hull made more errors, 11 to 8, but had more overall ball, thanks in part to a 3 to 6 penalty count. Leeds missed more than twice as many tackles and had a 5% worse team tackle success.
Okay, individually, who stood out for us?
Well, it's everyone for Hull. Jamie Shaw, a try, 193 metres. Carlos Tumabavi, 2 tries, 125 metres. Scotty Taylor, a try, 126. Liam Watts, a try, 110. Josh Griffin, 119 metres. just pipped a few other 100+ metre makers in this one. I didn't get the tackle bus stats, but I imagine they were pretty impressive too.
So they'll be high. For Leeds then?
Matty Parcell worked really hard. 45 tackles by him, none missed. So he worked his hardest in defence. As did Jamie Jones Buchanan, in more impressive, still 54 tackles. Ryan Hall, he grabbed his 2 tries and 113 metres. And like I say, his first try was particularly impressive. Mitch Garbutt, 155 metres. Callum Watkins with his try and 129 metres were the only real names to jump off the sheet.
There you go. Okay, so to the second and final game of the weekend then. Wigan 27, Salford 14. Played at the Halliwell Jones in Warrington in front of 10,796, refereed by one Mr. James Child.
Yeah, and boy was it a loud 10,796, both sets of fans in big voice. Aidan Stalker said, the year of Salford looks done, I'm afraid. I thought Evans did well and they were coping without Louis, but then that Spud Lamatasi turned up. Why on earth did they take him back from St Helens? Hilarious. Wigan showed nice composure apart from Gelling, obviously, and it should be a close final. Very enjoyable weekend with the BBC, a nice break from Sky.
Certainly are. Joshua's granddad, Mr. Scotto, got in touch. He said, watched on TV, thought Wigan was going to blow Salford away, so credit for the comeback. Michael McAlorum was definitely man of the match. Wigan's big game players helped them through the hard minutes. Thought Child was soft. I'm not going to let him have it. I'm not going to let him do it wrong. I'm going to correct him. I thought Child was soft on both Powell and Isa.
Shall we talk about those things?
Well, you're going to have to talk about them, Mark, because I've already seen the tries on this one.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Ah, right. Well, you missed a cracker. The Powell one was misjudged, third man in. Tackle is gone a little bit lower than is intended to, I would suspect. I don't think it was particularly forceful, but it was around the knee joint. Right. You know, it was probably only an inch or so above the knee rather than you prefer it to be around the hip before you slid down to, you know, control any leg drive. At the time, I was worried that it was actually a crusher tackle because I just saw the leg drive and then him sort of wincing in pain. I didn't see anything untoward with Powell's action in it live, but it kind of came from the other side. And so I wasn't sure. I thought it might have been a crusher by O'Loughlin, but either way, dangerous contact should be a sin bin, I would think. But they didn't see the offence during the actual game. They didn't give it as a penalty, so obviously they didn't see that it was borderline. He's been given a grade B charge. He'll miss a game, Sam Powell, and I think that's right. I don't think there was any malice in it, but it was poorly timed and it needs to be pulled up because it could cause injuries. Lamatasi didn't get injured. In fact, he managed to come back on and run his shoulder into Tali Mataltai's face, so he's also on a charge from this game and may face a ban. The Willie Isa one.
Let me guess. Willie Isa high shot.
No, it was a late sort of push really on Todd Carney. Todd Carney then laid down like he'd got really hurt to try and, I think, make sure they won the penalty that they should have been given because it was very late, the push. But actually, it resulted in Todd Carney being forced off for a head check, even though there was no head contact. So we couldn't play the last 5 minutes of the game.
Fine, don't milk penalties then.
Yeah, but I do. It should have been a penalty. That was one of the few mistakes I thought.
Why is everybody up in arms about Sam Tompkins? What did he do wrong? There was someone saying he was a dirty little C word.
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. I think he was just being more typical. Everyone hates Tompkins.
Oh right, it's not like he did something stupid.
Was more whole. But we'll talk about that when we get to that, I think.
Yes, so we got to Joshua's granddad.
So it's Tim G Radio next. He said, it's standing on a Lego brick or upturned plug socket final then.
Scoots McKenzie, she said, an equally enjoyable match, although in a very different way. Salford lacked the clinical edge and didn't convert the pressure they had on the line into points, and the result was probably a fair one, although possibly not the scoreline.
Craig Miller at Millerman69, who I believe is a Wigan fan, but he got in touch to say a great game, once again spoiled by poor officiating. The RFL and Super League need to sort it out.
Danny Hull, who's at Danny Hull 7 if you want to follow him on Twitter, says easy this one. Wigan won a close game deservedly, and Sam Tompkins is a dirty little cunt. Well played Wigan, hope they win it.
Well, Tompkins got sin-binned for I think it was harsh, I would. But, for making contact and interfering with Tyrone McCarthy when he was going through to try and collect a ball in the in-goal area, it was ruled a professional foul. I don't think it was a pull-back. I think it did make contact with him, but for a start, James Child got in Tompkins' way, otherwise Tompkins would have been a step ahead of everyone else to the ball, so he had to change his run to get around the referee. But the influential part of what Tompkins did was knocking it away with his right hand, not the brushing against Tyrone McCarthy a little bit with his left hand before McCarthy had collected the ball. I actually thought at the time he must have been sin-binned for saying something about the decision being a penalty rather than just a straight no try and tap on the 20 to us, because I couldn't believe that he'd done anything blatant enough for it to be a sin-bin. There was a bit of contact, but it wasn't like it didn't totally change the player, prevent him from being able to play at the ball. What prevented him from being able to play at the ball was Tompkins batting it away with his right hand. So I thought it was a bit harsh, but and many people agreed actually. But in the end, be what it be, Ben Fowler wants to referee the game from the video ref booth rather than do what other people like Robert Hicks do with video ref decisions, and that's how it is. It's fair enough though. It didn't affect us too badly in the end.
Now, final one on this one then. Paul Lewis says, good to hear that Kukash didn't want to make the day all about him. I heard this during his half-time interview, that it's perfectly normal for owners to give. I then noticed he certainly sat down in front of the coaching staff so that it would be only a coincidence that he was on TV every time they were shown. He also unselfishly went to the touchline at the end of the game. I'm so glad the MK show won't be at Wembley. He does enjoy getting in front of a camera, but I have to say, he's been better this year, Kukash, hasn't he?
It's been saying better things. I think it's is it Ian Lees who's the sort of guy running the show.
It's the Marlon Kukash step back.
I think him and Watson have sort of got together and said we need to play this a bit more closer to our chest than we have been doing.
Yeah.
And Kukash has gone along with all of that and done pretty well at it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, he's always going to be a relatively outspoken character, but it's no coincidence in my mind that his taking a step back and not being the clown prince bad guy / whatever of rugby league has coincided with Salford's best finish for 40 years.
Yeah, and
to be perfectly honest.
And when one of his club's fans got on Twitter saying that he hoped Sam Tompkins and Sean Wayne gave each other AIDS and that everyone in Wigan would die a horrible death, he promptly sent that person a message saying thanks, you're banned.
Yeah, there you go.
Basically.
Exactly. So there you go. So to the game then.
I'm not. I don't know if it's my cherry and white spectacles or what it be, but I'm not sure where Scoots was coming from in terms of the scoreline thing, because I think the only way the scoreline wasn't reflective of the game is why it wasn't a wider margin. If I'm honest, I think Wigan for 60 minutes of this game were by far and away the better team, and only for 20 minutes of the game, the back end of the first half, through their own ill discipline mostly, they gave Salford opportunities, and Salford did take one of those, and then were also given a 50-50 call that Ben Fowler sided for them on the video ref call for the second try. And really the fact that it turned around 14-12 to Salford at half time, to me, was remarkable, given how great Wigan were in the first 20 minutes, how influential George Williams was. He was pulling people all over the place. His quick ball to Willie Isa meant even Willie Isa had enough space and time to find a line to put the ball down and not get held up over the line.
And he did have space and time, didn't he?
But yeah, and then even Isa got involved in the link play as well for Gildart's try. It was a different Willie Axe. He was contributing to the attack, but it was all because of what George Williams was giving him, obviously. I think George was really good in that regard, and he had another assist late on in the game as well with a very hard to take pass that Gildart did his best to juggle and get through the gap off the back of. But yeah, Williams was great, but Sam Tompkins was outstanding.
Really?
Back to his best.
Right.
Stepping through and around people. Stepping through and around people, playing the ball at the line, taking back tough carries, getting really involved, and it's sin binning aside. When, like I said, I felt that was harsh. This was him back to his best. The two games he's played on that Halliwell Jones field this year have been proper Tompkins, really good stuff. And then on top of that, Ryan Sutton was outstanding in the pack, and Michael McAlorum had his best game for
Well, you can't say his best game for us sometimes because he's been out for a very long time. He's back to form, isn't he? Yeah.
Best game this season by a distance. Frank Paul Nuasala started the game poorly. Salford had a great opening set, and then Wigan blew it away for the next 20 minutes or so before they started giving penalties away. But Frank Paul Nuasala came back from that early problem and had his best spell on the field in a Wigan shirt in the second half. He came back on for either Clubb or Tompkins, who went off with all of them went off with a knock in the second half, Tao Tai as well, but he came on to replace one of them.